Welcome to this 1 hour in which we will dive into practical examples on how health data generated in patient support programs can impact patient care. You can look forward to an international panel. We have 7 speakers from US, from Sweden, France, Italy, Belgium, specialized in different domains like neurology, obesity, orthopedics, skincare, bariatrics. So quite a broad spectrum. You will receive insights from 2 professors and 2 senior leaders of medical companies, 1 CRO executive, and 2 people from MoveUp. 1 more covering the strategic elements and 1 talking about the AI elements that we apply on data. So we can talk about research, market access elements, the impact on policies, clinical studies, improving patient care, and efficiency for care teams. So a quite big program in this 1 hour. As you can imagine, we needed to make choices in this program. So this webinar will not show the elements on big data sets, neither talk about the regulatory elements, which are also very important on this. Also on the introduction of MoveUp, because I assume some people know us, some people don't yet. This is indeed, Louise is showing the program already. But just in a nutshell, what and who MoveUp is. So we are working around 4 different key areas. Maybe Louise, you can show the next slides. And that is engaging patients, engaging HCPs, supporting efficient team collaboration and real-world data collection. And it's especially on that 4th pillar today that we are going to focus. To achieve that, we work with more than 12 modules that you see here. We will not go into much details, but it's modules we can configure quite easily depending on the problems that we want to solve, and that we currently do in 8 therapeutical areas. Louise, can you click the slide, please? Yes. But you can imagine that we can apply that in other areas as well. Today, we are a team of 25 people and are active in 13 countries around the globe, focused on Europe and US. But okay, that's it for the introduction, and let's give the word to the other speakers. We give the speakers, let's say, about 5 minutes and it will be more an interview modus with the different people that we saw. There is 1 speaker that is Professor Arnaud. He's a surgeon, so he'll be in between surgeries. So let's see if we succeed in having him on time on the webinar, or if we need to shift a bit. May I indeed invite the first speaker to the floor, which is Magnus. Maybe you can introduce yourself, Magnus.
Yes, so my name is Magnus Enerbeck, that's in Swedish. I'm the global marketing manager at a company called Mölnlycke Healthcare. It's a medical device company, and I'm responsible for our range of advanced incision dressings.
Okay, excellent. Can you give a bit context on your work?
Yes, so we are a little bit on a quest in Mölnlycke to improve incision care in the world, because if you look globally, practically all incisions are treated the same day today as they were like 25 or 50 years ago. And it's kind of unacceptable when everything else has developed so much. And so we want to design a dressing that's better for patients. And a critical part of that is to avoid unnecessary dressing changes. Sorry, to make sure that you leave the dressing in place for as long as possible to avoid contamination and cost and time and obviously waste. So we have an advanced dressing, and we launched that a couple of years ago with an up to 7-day wear time, because that's what we had evidence to support, safe use for up to 7 days.
And based on data, because I assume some people were wearing it longer. Did you have any plans to extend that period, and how did that work?
Yeah, exactly. So it's in order to to be able to promise a safe longer wear time, we obviously need clinical evidence to support. And for us to initiate that, that's pretty complicated. It takes a lot of time and money. But if we find clinicians who use the product off-label longer than 7 days, that's perfectly okay. And we are then allowed to actually study that behavior to see whether it is safe or not. And then obviously we did kind of stumble over such a surgeon in Belgium who had been using the dressing for between 2 and 3 weeks. And then we approached him and started a discussion.
Okay, and then that data that you collected, what was then done with the data, and how did you proceed?
Well, let's say the prerequisite for this being possible was in fact the Move Up app, because that normally a patient would leave the surgery department after maybe a day or two, and then they disappear out somewhere, and it's very, very difficult to track. But because of the Move Up app, we were able to follow the patients, and we had sufficient data in Move Up to actually confirm that it was safe. And then that actually allowed us to claim up to 14 days wait time instead of up to 7, which is probably the best for the patient, and it's definitely differentiating for us. And it creates a let's say a competitive advantage for us and our dressing. But I want to underline it is what's best for patients, right? Because you minimize contamination and cost and all of that. So it's the best of two worlds.
So if I summarize well, you have a surgical dressing that had an instructions for use to be used for 1 week, but of
Yes.
course people were using it longer, and you wanted to show the safety of it on a longer period.
Yeah.
Then you saw in data that it was possible in 2 weeks. Then you collected the data of that. How did your compliance team and regulatory team reacted to it?
No, I mean it's perfectly, let's say, regulatory and legally acceptable for us to study a behavior that's off-label within limits, obviously. And in this case, we simply studied what was going on and what had been going on for a couple of years. And then we had, I think, the database allowed us to confirm safety with over 500 of the patients, and of those 120 or so had enough data to confirm the wear time. And of those 120, like 100 or so had the dressing on for 14 days or longer.
Yeah.
So regulatory and legally, this is and clinically, it's let's say sufficient for us to claim this.
Yeah, and that claim, is that then linked to the publication that we see on screen now?
Exactly. So obviously it's a pretty bold claim to claim 14-day wear time, and we need a published piece of evidence that people can look at and read. And so we had this publication made. Dr. van Overschelde is the first author, and this was published a couple of months ago. And it's available for anybody to read, and it describes everything, the objectives, method, results, and so on. And for us, this is a critical piece in our, let's say, marketing storytelling. We can prove that the dressing is safe to use, and it works, obviously, for up to 14 days.
Yeah.
So
So
it's been
it's quite interesting data that you were able to publish. If you would have done that in an, let's say, prospective clinical trial, how would have that looked like?
I mean, since patients nearly always leave and end up somewhere else, it would have been a huge and cumbersome and expensive exercise. It's possible, obviously, but it would have been incredibly more difficult than this approach using the Move Up app was.
Yeah. Okay, that's very good. In terms of time, I think that we can leave it here. Any final remarks maybe from your end on the collaboration?
No, everything has worked super well, and I'm I'm thinking about what else could we do together with the Move Up app, other things you could study and confirm. And let's have a dialogue over that, because it opens very interesting research possibilities, the data that is gathered by Move Up.
Okay, excellent, Magnus. Thanks for your story on this. Then
Thank
I
you for
think
inviting me. Thank you.
we can jump to the next speaker. Maybe a practical thing. If there are questions, please you can put them in the Q&A, where you can put the question. We will see if we can address them later on. So for now, we go to the next speaker. We ended about the research part, and that's the ideal moment to go to Archange. Archange, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Archange Niga. I work in the data and AI department, and we work closely with the real-world solution department at IQVIA in the tools that we use in our real-world studies. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about the added value of including ePro data collection in our studies. And the first thing that I want to talk about is why we collect data directly from the patients, what are the opportunities and the challenges that we may face, and finally, how we can collect this data. So first of all, yeah, I think that there are two key concepts that we need to be aware of before moving on. Is PREMS. Basically, it's patient-reported outcome measures. You may be used to having PROs or ePROs, where the E stands for electronic. And what we are trying to do here is getting the feedback directly from the patient regarding the outcome of care. Usually it's the quality of life, but it can be the burden of disease or fatigue in some specific cases. There is also PREMS, patient-reported experience measures, where we are trying to find out how was the experience of the patient. Was he informed enough? Was his pain managed in a timely manner? And in both ways, in both concepts, they are generic, which are questionnaires that could apply in any situation, and specific questionnaires when we are looking for a specific disease. Regarding the context, today it's not enough just to collect data. We need to know what the patients feel, how was it taken into account while his care was while he was in his care. I can talk a little bit about France, where the Haute Autorité de Santé, which is the high health organization in France, have published several guides. One on early access programs, where PROs are strongly recommended, and one on real-world medical studies. And we need to justify why we are not using PRO if that's the case, meaning that the standard now is collecting the data directly from the patient. In our studies, we can see that more than 60% of our studies now integrate a dimension about collecting data directly from the patient. It's usually about the quality of life, but depending on the pathology, we will try to check some specific item from the patient. It can be the burden of disease, the fatigue, as I said earlier. All this data that we are collecting, it's for a purpose, not on getting the voice of the patient, will allow us to basically have patient support programs that are more personalized. With the PREMS, we could change the way that the patient is taken care of. And finally, we can also optimize the patient remote programs with all this data that is collected and having some alert systems also built into the algorithm that we develop. Regarding the challenges, which might be one of the most important slides that you would like to hear about, it's really about getting the right questionnaire and the right tool. What I mean by the right questionnaire is the first thing is, does it meet the objective of the study? And is it validated for the pathology, for the language that you are looking for? Is there an electronic version? Because in our experience, when you could implement an electronic tools, it's easier for the patient. And the last thing that you need to take into account is how in the study will the PRO live, meaning that is there a lot of PROs that you want to collect? Are they short or are they long? Because depending on that, you will need to change a little bit how you are collecting the data. Maybe change the workflow, not having the patient answer a questionnaire every day. So this is things that you need to consider. And when you have any type of measure, you will need to train the people on the tool and limit the biases. For example, we are not displaying the results of the questionnaire to the patient because in a real world study, we don't want to change the behavior of the patient. We just want to observe. So you need strong tools to be able to answer the objectives of the study. And the final thing that you need really to take into account, it's about licensing. When you are using validated PROs, there are licenses that you need to manage. And depending on the PROs and if it's validated in the right language, for example, it could take up to 6 months. Usually it's up to 2 months, but this is something that you need to really think about. And lastly, how? How is with a tool like MoveUp, where there's an app that is flexible and easy to configure, you can answer the different requirements from the authors of the PROs. And also to have a streamlined process, you need to have tools that are integrated together. We use ECRF tools to collect data from the investigator. And with MoveUp, we were able to add strong EPRO tools to collect the data directly from the patient, communicate with our ECRF, and simplify the analysis that we have. Another element that could be of use if you need it is being able to add e-devices. This is a strong capability that MoveUp has, and we were successful in thinking of this. Thank you.
You are muted, Bob. We don't hear you.
Yes, thank you. That's a good overview, Archange. Thank you very much for that. Those were two short sessions on the use of data more for clinical and, let's say, research purposes. We shift now to Wart Servaas. Wart Servaas is a co-founder of MoveUp, and he will share some strategic insights as well as an explanations of which kind of dashboards and reporting that we do. Wart, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Bob, and welcome everyone. I hope you hear me clearly and well. I would like to take you a bit back to the founding moment of MoveUp, where actually the founding team, what is now the founding team, came together. We're talking about 8 to 9 years ago. Here you see a trajectory of an intervention. So you have a timeline from left to right with a post-intervention consultation 1 and an extra one, consultation 2. And one of the founding members, a doctor specialist himself, was actually sharing with me his frustration about not being able to know what is happening in between those moments that he is in contact with the patient. And to be honest, me coming not from a healthcare background, I was also flabbergasted to see that with this that now still in standard of care there is so little known about the patient when they're in a home situation in between those moments. So this was for me kind of the eureka moment to say like, hey, let's improve this. If you go to the next slide, this shows initially what we said, like, look, if we can start monitoring symptoms, activity levels, then this is already a step forward. But of course, this was just the first step we wanted to take. And if you go to the next slide, obviously, and the time is too short to really explain how we build our solutions and how we work into co-creation with the experts, which is also the patients and obviously also the healthcare professionals. In the end, we come to a portfolio of interfaces and dashboards, which Bob was referring to already, to really make sure that not only that data is collected, but that people are also motivated to use those tools and to use those interfaces because it benefits them on a daily basis. So if we dive a bit further into what the patient then sees, here we see just a list of functionalities starting from daily questionnaires, messaging interaction, but also information modules. So really showing where the patient is in the patient journey, so that they can also feel peace of mind about what is happening to them, but they can also be in contact with the healthcare team if necessary. And of course, the modularities, the elements which you see here, are activated or deactivated depending on the patient journey. Now, this is from the patient's perspective. If you then look to the healthcare professional teams, often multidisciplinary teams who are then following up the patient on the one hand to the medical dashboard, really looking to the parameters, so looking to symptoms, looking to outcomes. But we've also built a custom compliance dashboard, and this is really looking at data compliance. So those are really important which interact with each other. And in the end, if you look to the data which is being captured at different moments, so for example, at a consultation or at the end of a treatment, detailed reports with detailed insights can be shared, and really where there is, let's say, elements which go off track can also be shown to the healthcare professional or to the patient when necessary. Now, these are elements which we've looked to for one patient. What if we go to more patients? This is actually where the beauty comes in, and this is also where I think those elements of insights can be created. That's also why we call this dashboard the data insights dashboard, where you see in this case the EQ5D, a very common used patient-reported outcome measure, where you see the different timelines before the intervention at 3 months, at 6 months, at 1 year, 2 year. And this is just one way to compare, for example, whether you want to compare it between interventions or whether you're going to compare gender or age groups. And you see also on the tabs on the top that you can also get insights really on how your patients got in, what are the demographics, how satisfied are they, what are the outcomes. So this is the beauty of getting, let's say those interfaces coming together and that data coming together in one dashboard. Now, being able to create those dashboards, you need to be connected. We don't like silos to be built. No, it needs to be integrated. Also for the ease of use for the different stakeholders. So electronic health record integration is key. Also integration with sensor data is important. We'll talk a bit later about the registry solution that we have built, but also in the future we will see patient health data vaults coming up, which will be important to all get connected. And if you then look to the data connection capabilities, what you can do then of use cases. The previous slide already showed some descriptive analysis. You can start comparing whether an interface for one person or another person has had the same effect. We've heard the testimonial of Magnus about the real-world evidence you can create suddenly. We can also talk about population health management, which you can start applying. And later on, Andries, my colleague, will also talk about how you can use that data which you collected historically also to collect or to predict how a patient who is starting a journey now, how you can predict what the outcome would be, or even help the healthcare professional and the patient to really make clinical decision making. So all in all, needless to say, at the bottom, we have the necessary accreditations to make sure that it's safely collected and also safely connected. So all in all, I think a very important portfolio of within our platform to allow this decentralized data to come to life. Back to you, Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Wart, for giving this overview of possibilities in relation to data. I suggest we go to the next speaker, which is Professor Saka. Can you hear us, Professor Saka?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Perfectly. Can you maybe introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, sure. My name is Francesco Sacca, and I am professor of neurology at the Federico II University of Naples, Italy. And my primary focus is neuroimmunology, primarily multiple sclerosis, myasthenia gravis, and other very rare neuroimmunological conditions.
Excellent. You were talking about myasthenia gravis. Maybe you can shed a bit of light about that disease and what is typical in the symptoms of that?
Sure. So myasthenia gravis is an autoimmune disorder of the neuromuscular junction. In terms of symptoms, it might start with an eyelid droop or double vision, and then it might extend to difficulties chewing, swallowing, breathing, and with muscle strength in both upper and lower limbs. It is usually a very disabling medical conditions, but in certain situations, it might also become a life-threatening condition when patients start having difficulties breathing or swallowing and might be admitted to an intensive care unit. So it's both disability and life-threatening situations. And there has been a huge change in terms of the therapies that we have. So older therapies like corticosteroids, non-steroidal immunosuppressants have offered to patients the opportunity to get better, but there's still, a huge slice of patients that do not benefit from that type of therapy. So that in the past years, we've seen a surge in the number of innovative therapies that can offer these patients a huge opportunity of improvement.
Yeah. How do you organize that in your team? Because I think with all those various symptoms, how do you capture that?
Yeah, the good thing in myasthenia gravis is that we have some clinical scales. You can see that from this picture here, the MG-ADL, which is a clinical scale that is a patient-reported outcome, and it summarizes the past 7 days. And this is a good opportunity because MG fluctuates a lot. So you need to capture and kind of summarize that. And the MG-ADL can be self-administered or can be administered from healthcare providers. When it's self-administered, patients can even do that remotely. So in a sort of old-fashioned system, we started calling patients on the phone and having them, answer to our questions and fill in some forms where patients used to fill in some paper MG-ADL scores and then send them to us or bring them during their consultation. But luckily enough, we've been developing some, let's say, some remote monitoring of these symptoms with personal phones and with some portals and dashboards where we can enter and see how patients are doing. And this is essential when you start having large number of these patients, because if you're in clinical trials of just have a few patients, then it's okay to do phone calls. When you start growing and have a lot of numbers, you absolutely need some infusion of technology to be able to monitor all of them.
Mm. And how did that change the way of working in your team?
Well, thanks to our collaboration with MoveUp, what we did is that patients have an app where they enter the MG-ADL, and on our side, as you can see from this picture here, we have a portal where we enter and we see what's going on. So the way this has changed the communication is that patients are not calling us, they are not alerting us for everything that has happened. There is an algorithm that selects patients and it displays different colors based on the MG-ADL, based on how the MG-ADL is doing. If it is worsening, if it is progressively worsening, or if patients are not filling in their forms, at that point we get some alerts and the color changes from, for instance, from green to yellow and then to red. So this makes it possible to select patients based on their symptoms and not alerting us for everything that is happening. So we can concentrate our resources, which are, as you might know, already very limited in our job. We can concentrate those resources for those patients that really need them. So it has changed our way of practicing a lot. And also one very important thing is that this enables us to download data and use it for research purposes, because it's not just the MG-ADL for clinical activity, it is also for research. And when something is new, is innovative, you want to collect data and use that as a real world evidence. And this means that you have to have a way to do that efficiently. And this has really helped us a lot.
Yeah. And you're using it now, I see, for myasthenia gravis patients. Do you see that also potential for other patients with other conditions?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it is either collected as a patient-reported outcome, so as long as patients can fill the forms on themselves, or if we can have patients do something and then upload it in an app, in an iPhone or whatever portable device linked app, because it's not just patient-reported outcomes. If they have to do something like exercise or if they have some device with them that can upload data, that's okay. So potentially it can go up to other diseases that have these type of scales that can be used. Or even if they are not approved as a primary endpoint, let's say, but as secondary or tertiary endpoints, that might still be useful. In the field of neuroimmunology, we can for sure do that for neuropathies. We could do that for multiple sclerosis. We could do it for a lot of diseases that might benefit from this type of follow-up.
Okay, excellent. So thank you, Professor Saka, for sharing your experience, your practical experience in using these technologies for patients and for your team.
Thank you.
Looking at the next speaker, where we go more into the secondary use of the data. The first speaker we had on the list was Professor Lano. Maybe Louise, let me know if he already was able to attend.
He's not. He wasn't able to join yet. So
he's still in surgery. So
yes.
then we wait a bit. Now we recorded the session. So we pre-recorded an interview yesterday evening. So if he would not show up by the end of the webinar, we can still play that video. So then we skip to the next part where we have Jingxi. Jingxi is the Senior Vice President and Regulatory Affairs, Clinical Affairs globally at Microport Orthopedics. She's from the US and flying as we talk, in fact. So we also have a video ready for her from her. So in an interview together with the co-founder Chalerk Winandi. So Louise, can you have it viewed?
Yes, if everything goes well, you should now see the video. Be ready. Before I start the video, may I ask for everybody to mute yourselves to make sure that we have the proper sound quality of the video.
I will let you introduce yourself. Well, thank you very much. And it's a great honor to have this opportunity to share,
I don't have any sound anymore.
Is this better?
Hi, Jean. Welcome. Thank you very much for spending a bit of time with us. So I will let you introduce yourself. Well, thank you very much. And it's a great honor to have this opportunity to share, topics we all feel very passionate about, the data, how we're going to use data in the medical field. So this is a great opportunity. Thank you for that. And so my name is Jin Xie, and and I work for Michael Port Orthopedics. And my primary responsibility, it is in the clinical and the regulatory, but I'm also now leading some of the digital project development for the company. Traditionally, when you talk about clinical data, what comes to people's mind is first clinical data in the clinical trial, clinical studies, and then all using data supporting regulatory activities, like I mentioned. But I think in the past, I would say probably 5 years, there's a rapid increase of focus of also using data and to be able to support the hospital, supporting clinicians, developing much more personalized treatment for the patient. So it's more using the data as a decision-making tools and to help a surgeon to make an informed decision how to optimize patient outcome by provide the personalized treatment plan. And maybe now concretely, so the project we've been working on with the Skywalker robot, if you can maybe explain in a nutshell. Yes, absolutely. What it is and what's the ambition with it. Yeah, how Microport Orthopedics as a company see this as a really way of transform their business from a traditional implant supplier to the surgeon, to the patient, to a more comprehensive solution provider, right? So we work in total joint replacement industry. So where we be able to do is not only provide the hip or knee implant, but also using the data to create a better solutions. So, we not only having the implant, but now we also have a robotic system that will help the surgeon, assist the surgeon to perform the hip or knee replacement in a much more precise, accurate way. So that's one benefit of the robot. And the other benefit of the robot is for the first time, we can actually use the robot to capture frame by frame, minutes by minutes, what happened in the OR. And so we recognize that's a really critical, really important data source we can leverage, right? So that's where we, join the effort with Move Up, because what Move Up can offer is also another critical piece of the data, which is the data that we can gather in the very efficient, seamless way, preoperatively, but also postoperatively, and to monitor how the patient doing before and after the surgery. So by marrying the two data sources, right, by marrying the data, we can collect it from the app we co-develop with MoveUp, and with the data from what we can extract from the robot intraoperatively, then we created this comprehensive data continuum from pre to the intra all the way to post-op. And then we can use this data to help a surgeon to make informed decision for new patient. When the new patient come in, then surgeon to be able to look at the patient current health status, to be able to provide a recommendation and what the surgical plan should be, and which will give more predictable and also optimized outcome. Maybe another question on the collaborations, on how we've defined the project up to the completion. Collaboratively identify, what is our end goal, right? If we want to develop a digital solution, it's not just a cool tool, but it really is to figure out how this tool actually can better service our stakeholders, our customer, that include both the patient and the surgeon. And we really, very fortunate to have a Move Up team, which also have extensive experience, in terms of understand what is the clinicians need, what is patients looking for, to help us really define the user requirement for this product. So we spend a lot of time working together on that. And then once we define what the product should look like, what is the functionality, what is the technical infrastructure we need, and then we really join effort, spend time very closely. We have a weekly call. We also have ad hoc call and two teams working really closely to be able to developing the technical capability and finally deliver that product. So right now, and I think we're really excited. We are already past that joint development phase, and then we have a product which is live and it's working. And then, but the work has not ended there, right? We'll continue, routine, surveys and ask, contact with customer, making sure that we hear their voice and they can provide a lot of useful information in terms of what the gaps, what are the future enhancement we can work on. Yeah. Thank you very much. Good.
Let me answer that for Jing. Very good. Thanks for that explanation. She's not here, but let's make it feel like she is. In the meantime, I'm not sure. I'll reshare my screen, but I'm not sure if Professor Lano managed to be here already. If not, then Bob, I would say.
Then indeed, maybe we go to Andries, colleague of MoveUp, who will provide some insights on the possibilities of using AI on the data.
Yes, thank you, Bob. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for having me here anyway today. So far, we have heard some insightful presentations on the power of decentralized data collection and the critical roles of both primary and secondary use of real-world data. In this specific session, I will continue that discussion by demonstrating how AI is transforming clinical practice by maximizing the value of this collected data. Now, at MoveUp, we've developed tools like the MoveUp Index to empower this informed medical decisions. Now, what is the MoveUp Index actually? It's a decision aid tool to enable a healthcare professional to quicker filter candidates for a specific treatment. This enables the healthcare provider to optimize their scheduling. The MoveUp Index itself addresses several treatments, like I said. For each of them, we've developed a questionnaire that patients can complete to calculate their MoveUp Index score. The questionnaire and calculation that we do are based on guidelines from literature on the one hand, and if possible, also on the MoveUp database on the other hand. The calculated MoveUp Index score serves as a treatment recommendation in the end for the patient. Now, here on the left side, you see such a MoveUp Index score of a specific treatment, and a green score indicates that the treatment for that patient is recommended, leading to a short priority appointment for the healthcare professional. A shift towards the right, towards the orange or yellow, means a longer appointment because there is more discussion about what should we do the treatment or not. While in the end, if it's a red score, it suggests that the treatment is less advisable and instead a multidisciplinary approach is preferred. Now, this is just a score to avoid the common black box issue as we see in a lot of AI tools. We have added a report alongside the score. The report is here on the right side, and this report provides clear reasoning behind the recommendation, using green flags which encourage moving forward with the treatment and red flags which highlight concerns that should discourage proceeding with the treatment. An extra benefit is that by using these red and green flags, patients also gain insights into why a treatment is recommended or not, making the decision-making process more informed and transparent. Next slide, please. Yes. So now, if we talk about treatment recommendation, in addition to that, to the MoveUp Index, the MoveUp Index also includes milestone or outcome prediction that offer valuable insights into how a patient is likely to evolve after receiving a particular treatment. This prediction is based on an algorithm using all previous data collected regarding similar treatments and patients. An illustration of how this algorithm works is by employing a nearest neighbor approach. And with this method, we can map the responses of a new patient onto our comprehensive existing database. The goal here is to identify a set of patients whose characteristics or features, how you want to name it, closely resemble that of the new patient. As similar patients typically follow similar trajectories. The model will automatically select the most relevant features to make an accurate prediction. The more data available, the more precise our model will be. Now, here on the right side, you see quite an abstract visualization of how such a k-nearest neighbor approach work. So on the green dots there they're representing our MoveUp database, while the red dot is actually a new patient submitting the MoveUp index score. For this patient, we will check based on the answers on the questionnaire which patients are closest, and what is closest is the shortest vectorial distance in mathematical terms, while also looking to the most relevant features. Once we found those k nearest neighbors, in this example here on the slide, it's the 3 nearest neighbors, we make an estimation of the outcome. And just here in this example, we see 3 nearest neighbors, 6 weeks, 6 weeks, and 7 weeks. That's when we think the milestone will be obtained. So what do we predict for this specific patient? We will predict the milestone will be obtained at 6 weeks or 7 weeks. Now, these outcome predictions can help doctors to inform patients about, amongst others, their expected satisfaction with the treatment. And it's a good example on how secondary use of data can, with the help of AI, complement the primary use of the same data, which is the MoveUp index score. Yes, thanks. Now, one final big risk with the ubiquity of digital health is the data overload. That's something that we learned already throughout the past, because too much data is overwhelming for healthcare professionals and also reduces their efficiency. We have shown with the MoveUp index how to help to summarize a full diagnostic questionnaire into a single score, added with the green and the red flags. But we can do more to support and improve the efficiency of the doctors. Nowadays, an integral part of the MoveUp environment is what we call the MoveUp GPT, our internal, safe, and secure API, which connects to a large language model. This feature is designed to explore and summarize all available data points, providing healthcare professionals with a comprehensive overview of relevant information. It can help doctors or nurses to generate personalized treatment letters with a couple of clicks. Now you see a small graph here. So how did it quickly work? So the patient fills in the score. Like we said before, the doctor sees the patient with the MoveUp index report that they share. Then the doctor decides on the treatment together with the patients. And then finally, the doctor can generate with one click the treatment of the personalized recommendation letter, which contains the treatment recommendation itself, the key factors that led to this decision, and the next steps for the patient to be taken. Such a letter you see here on the right side, just as an example. But okay, furthermore, we can also train dedicated MoveUp GPTs on any material that we have and ensure the answer provided to the patients are relevant to the customer's own material. By combining our expertise in the MoveUp database, our knowledge of the MoveUp GPT, and our understanding of patients' needs, we created, in the end, a powerful tool to improve patient care. Now, to conclude this part about AI to empower medical decisions, we can say that we leverage the data gathered in our database for secondary use to empower decision-making during patient interactions, showcasing the primary application of this data. Voilà, thanks. And back to you, Bob.
Thank you, Andries. That was very clear. Love it. Now the question of the day, is Professor Lano available?
He's not yet in the call.
He's not yet in the call, so then he'll still be in the surgery room. So in that case, Louisa, maybe you can prep the video that we recorded yesterday evening. And to give an insight, Professor Lano is a bariatric surgeon in the University Hospital of Leuven, and he's also a member of the BSOMS. It's a physician association of bariatric surgeons, and they launched a registry using the MoveUp platform. You can start the video now, Louisa.
Yes, of course. My name is Matthias Lano. I'm working at University Hospitals of Leuven at the service of abdominal surgery, and I'm a bariatric surgeon, so I do surgery to take care of people who are living with obesity. So to name it exactly, we do surgery on the stomach and the small bowel to induce weight loss, and most importantly, to cure the comorbidities of obesity, like, for example, diabetes sleep apnea, hypertension, and dyslipidemias. I'm also a member of the board of the BSOMS, and the BSOMS is the Belgian organization, Belgian section of metabolic and bariatric surgery. So that is an organization that all the professionals who are taking care of bariatric surgery and of the patients gathers together. And it's from that organization that we had the idea that a registry where we registered the patient data who underwent such kind of operations, to register their outcomes and the kind of surgery they had.
Maybe you can align a bit or elaborate a bit on the why there is a need for data.
Yes, so the why for data is in fact a lot of reasons why it became more and more important that when you are a doctor or you are working in healthcare, that we need data from, in the first place, from the things we are doing, but also in second place, how patients are experience that care that we give to patients to make their lives healthier and better. So, first of all, you all know that healthcare costs a lot of money. How can you make healthcare better at a lower cost? It's very important that you have a constant monitoring of the health outcomes, of course, of what you are doing, because it's obviously not fair to reduce costs at the cost of the patient. It's very important that you have the data who tells you almost real time, I should say, that what you are doing has no harm for the patient.
Yeah, you're talking here about surgeries and obesity. Of course, the obesity pathway is a long trajectory, which is lifelong. In fact, or surgery is just a limit in time. How do you deal with that situation to make sure that you capture all events related to those patients?
I must say honestly, we already had a lot of attempts to keep a registry, and from the past and from the failures, I learned that it's very important that the bias on the data is as low as possible. And then what's also very important is that, of course, that the data you want to have, that you have it from as much as patients as possible. You start with a rather limited set of data you want to keep, but that you look for possibilities to have all the data. Then to start with a lot of data entry points and end up with nobody who has filled them in because the task is too much. But it's also very good, and certainly when we are talking about also not only data that can be delivered by the healthcare professionals and the hospitals, but also by the patient who need data, because patient-reported outcomes become more and more important. Then it's very good that you have also patient applications where they can easily fill in their data, where they're easily forced to do that on a very consequent way. So the capability of a registry to connect with other databases will be also very important, because in healthcare, a lot of different databases exist, of course, and it's very important, certainly when you look at the comorbidities of obesity, like diabetes, that you can connect with a registry that keeps outcomes from patients suffering from diabetes, for example. And also, I find it very important, as surgery is not a standalone therapy of obesity, that you could also immediately implement additive therapies that patients do. That we had a lot of partners in the past, and now we are hopeful because we now work with you guys, Move Up. And I must say, yeah, you have already established some necessary things we need. You have patient application, you know how it works, you know how it connects. On the other hand, you have connections with the government and databases there, and you have the know-how to set up a registry, of course. So I'm very hopeful for the future that now we will succeed to distillate the patient's life, medically, I mean, yeah, in a set of data. And that every surgeon at every moment can see how good he takes care of those patients every day. And that's also something you already have a lot of experience in, how you report at real time, how your medical practice is performing.
Okay, excellent. That's a very clear story, Professor Lano. Thank you for this. And thanks from the audience.
Okay.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Back to you, Bob.
Yes, okay, so that brings us till 1:30. So that should be the end of the webinar. And indeed, let's maybe I see one question is popped in the chat, and is about who pays for this, and maybe I can address that in a very short way. So indeed, quite some pathways are funded by the hospitals themselves. What we also often see is that to get these pathways established, there is often some budget needed, let's say, to make that change, to make sure that the right protocols, the right content is added into the functionalities. So that's a bit of a change moment also for the staff. How will it impact their way of working? So that's a trajectory that is often sponsored by pharma of medtech companies for, let's say, 2 years of time to have everything installed, everything up and running. But by then, the efficiencies for the care teams are efficient, and at that moment, it's we expect it to be funded, and that's what we see to be funded by the hospitals themselves. That's often the case. And then indeed, there's a question on who's owning the data. Then we could spend another webinar about that, and maybe that should be the next one. At the end, it's always the patient who is owner of the data, and we work with the necessary data privacy agreements and consents to make sure that all the patients who are sharing their data are aware of what's going to happen with their data. But indeed, there's much more to say about that, maybe in the next time or on a personal conversation. I see another question coming in: the implementation time at the clinic. It can be very short. Let's say the shortest was about a bit more than 1 month. It all depends on how there is some kind of consensus at the clinic, because a doctor can decide for himself a specific patient pathway and what is the protocol. But if you do an implementation like this, then you better align with colleagues and agree on common protocols to get that aligned, and as well as collect all the content that need to be shared with patients, as well as the triggers that needs to be installed. For example, if a patient reports this, then what needs to happen, all those elements. If that all is clear, it can go very fast, but alignment on those elements decide on how long it takes. But let's say normally we do this in 3 to 4 months time. And I think with that, there's another comment. Okay, so with that we can close the webinar. If there, Louise just posted a QR code. Where does it lead to, Louise?
It leads to our website, and more precisely our contact page. So if you have any more questions or you want to reach out to us, you can do that via the website, and of course snoop around a little more to see what we offer and what we bring.
Okay, yes. And it is recorded, so we will send the recording to all participants. So have a good day, have a good lunch if still needed, and see you next time. Bye-bye.